Welcome to Affluence and Advocacy, NY Real Estate Law.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Affluence and Advocacy, New York Real Estate with Natalia Shishodia. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of 1031 exchanges. Natalia, can you explain what a 1031 exchange is and its primary purpose for your clientele?
Hi, Matt. Nice to be with you today again.
Thanks for joining.
Absolutely. A 1031 exchange allows property owners to trade one or more relinquished properties for one or more replacement properties of like kind, while deferring the payment of capital income taxes and some state taxes on the transaction. Imagine you own a charming brownstone in Brooklyn and you are eyeing a commercial building in Manhattan. By using a 1031 exchange, you can actually swap the properties without immediately paying capital gain taxes on your gains. It's like getting an interest-free loan from the government to reinvest into the new properties. This deferral gives investors more money to invest in other properties and allows them to relocate the investment portfolio without paying tax on any gain.
Now, can you do a 1031 exchange on a primary residence?
No, you cannot. A 1031 exchange applies only to investment or business properties. Picture this. If you live in a beautiful townhouse in Greenwich Village, you cannot use a 1031 exchange to swap it for a beach house in the Hamptons. However, if you have a rental property or an office space, that is where 1031 exchange comes into play. The property must meet the qualified use test, meaning it must be income generating or held for investment. Both replacement and relinquished property must be held for productive use in a trade or business or for an investment. For example, a condo can be exchanged for a single family home and a shopping center can be exchanged for an office building. However, properties outside of United States are not like kind to properties in the United States.
Natalia, how is the current real estate market in New York affecting 1031 exchanges?
Very good question, Matt. So we are currently in a strong buyer's market. Interest rates are still a bit high. So all cash buyers, like those using 1031 exchanges, have a lot of bargaining power. A 1031 exchange gives buyers higher chance for their offers to be accepted because they are seen as serious buyers who need to close within a strict timeline to utilize 1031 exchange benefits. For example, I recently had a client who was able to secure a prime commercial property in Midtown Manhattan because the seller knew she had to close quickly to meet her 1031 exchange deadlines.
So let's see. My understanding is that an investor has to sell first and then purchase a replacement property to get a tax credit. So what happens if an investor found a property to purchase, but that sale didn't happen yet?
In such a case, we would normally structure a reverse 1031 exchange for our client. So it is also 1031 exchange, but done in a reverse way. Let me share a story about a family that we recently helped. A mother and her two sons who owned a house in Florida. So they put the house on the market, but sale didn't finalize yet. Meanwhile, we are getting phone call from the clients. They found a new development condo ready to close in Brooklyn, New York. So we set up a reverse 1031 exchange for them, which allowed them to acquire the Brooklyn property first and then complete the sale of their Florida house later. It is a bit like arranging parking spots, where 1031 exchange intermediary would hold a new property in a temporary holding arrangement until the old one is sold.
And what is the main difference between straightforward and reverse 1031 exchanges?
A straightforward 1031 exchange involves selling your property first and then buying the replacement property. A reverse 1031 exchange flips this sequence. Buy first, then sell. Imagine you're juggling. One approach lets you catch a new ball after throwing the first, while the other means you have to catch a new ball before letting go of the one you already have. Each requires its own strategy and timing.
And what are the tax benefits associated with using a 1031 exchange?
The primary benefits deferring capital gains tax. This deferral allows investors to reinvest more capital into new properties. It is like planting a tree. By deferring taxes, you get to plant more seeds and watch your investment grow over time. For example, one of our clients used the strategy to build a portfolio of rental properties across Manhattan, significantly boosting her passive income over the years.
And what are the key steps a property owner should take to initiate a 1031 exchange?
First of all is to consult with a qualified attorney or a tax advisor. Next would be to identify the properties that you want to sell and buy. And then, of course, work with a qualified, reputable exchange intermediary to handle the exchange process. But if you get a knowledgeable real estate attorney involved, you don't have to look for the qualified intermediary. They can actually do it for you because they already have experience working with different exchange intermediaries. For example, I had a client, Korean artist, who had art gallery on the Upper East Side in Manhattan. And she came to us because she needed help to do the reverse 1031 exchange for her. And she followed all the steps meticulously to ensure a smooth transaction from one property to another. Yeah, it went really smooth without any hiccups.
What is the most asked question by your clients who inquire about 1031 exchanges that you can share with our audience today?
So many clients ask about the holding period. This is, I would say, one of the most asked questions. We get this from investors who do fix and flips. And they ask how long they need to hold the property before it's eligible for 1031 exchange. Generally, it is advisable to hold the property for at least 2 years to use 1031 exchange benefit. I recall a story of a client who bought a rental apartment in the Midtown, held it for just over 2 years, and then successfully used 1031 exchange to acquire a commercial space downtown.
Does the property that your client is selling and purchasing have to be in the same state?
No, the properties can be in different states. For example, I had a client who sold a commercial property in Brooklyn and then was able to use 1031 exchange funds to buy a vineyard in California. The key is that both properties must be of like kind, meaning they both must be investment or business properties.
How important is it to work with a qualified attorney such as yourself during this process? And could you provide an example?
It's critical to work with a knowledgeable and qualified attorney. I once had a client, Lily, who had a gifted property with the basis of 0. So her basis was 0, right? Because it was a gift. She sold the property to her brother, but didn't deposit the funds with 1031 exchange intermediary or didn't identify her replacement purchase with an IRS required 45-day time frame. So this client didn't come to us in the beginning of the 1031 exchange process. She actually came a year later after she sold the property to her brother. As a result, she lost her opportunity to utilize the 1031 exchange benefit and had to pay a full capital gain tax. Another client that came to us later on and didn't use our services from the beginning attempted to handle the exchange without an attorney and missed critical deadlines, which resulted in paying substantial capital gain taxes. Working with an experienced attorney ensures compliance with all the necessary regulations and guidelines.
And what are common mistakes property owners make when attempting a 1031 exchange?
Common mistakes include, like, for example, we already discussed not consulting with an attorney knowledgeable in 1031 exchanges, or using investment property as a primary residence before conducting the 1031 exchange, flipping the purchased property too early under the assumption that 1031 exchange benefits will still apply. And another issue could be consulting 1031 exchange attorney too late, sometimes just days before the closing on the sale. These missteps can jeopardize the entire exchange process.
What advice would you give to someone considering a 1031 exchange for the first time?
So, of course, first, to consult knowledgeable 1031 exchange attorney early on and explain your particular case. This discussion should actually take place when you just start working with your attorney on the sale. So your attorney can include 1031 exchange language in your sale contract to reserve your rights. The outcome can differ based on the individual circumstances. So no assumptions. Additionally, I would suggest to use only a reputable qualified exchange intermediary for the 1031 exchange. For example, one of my clients followed all the steps and successfully expanded his investment portfolio without any tax complications.
Sounds great. Thanks, Natalia. I think definitely we learned a lot more about 1031 exchanges today. Looking forward to our next episode. Any final takeaways?
Thank you, Matt. It's always a pleasure to share and help our listeners navigate the complexities of real estate investment.
Everybody, this has been Affluence and Advocacy with Natalia Shishodia. Visit shishodia.com for more information. Natalia, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Matt.